the reason why is you don't have a boss here. You're the boss. It's your business. And some people want to hit this thing every night, every night, every night. In fact, I was just out in person. I told a guy, look, you don't work this business every night. You've got to make sure that you've got some time off. Instead of 7 nights a week, try 6 nights a week. And you'll do much better than 7 nights a week. Look, even the Lord says, take 1 day off. You notice he never said take 2 days off, though. He said take 1 day off, all right? And that's true. Now, for those of you that aren't drawing the circles every night of the week, you don't even have to pay attention to that. You're already taking time off, so you don't have to worry about that. But now, at the same time, I'll tell you, and I'm going to show you before we leave now, how you can be a direct by Christmas time, showing the plan once a week. And we go back to your schedule. Some of you don't ever want to be a direct. There's nothing wrong with that. If your dream is to make $40, $50 a week, that's great. We've got somebody in our organizations, I'm more proud of her than a whole bunch of other people that have gone much further than her. She was on welfare. The government was supporting her because she didn't have a job, couldn't get a job. She had a very low self-image, came into this business, and and I say we, is actually her sponsor and her direct and everything, but the people of the business loved her, encouraged her. We got her into the books and the tapes, and pretty soon she started believing in herself, and it took her 3 months to make enough money in this business to work her way off of welfare. She wasn't a millionaire. It only took probably about $400 or $500 a month. But she did it herself. And she hasn't become a direct, but she supports herself. You see, now that is success. That is tremendous. And she's getting what she wants. Now, obviously, she's not drawing the circles 6 nights a week. She's drawing the circles when she feels like it. She's got a nice retail business. She's getting what she wants from the business. The point I'm saying is what you've got to do is you've got to get your commitment to match the dream. When your desire and belief in the dream is strong enough, your commitment will follow with that. And that's why you've got to start learning goal setting right off the bat. Goal setting is the key to where you're going to be. The first step is learning to dream, and that's the emotions of the business. That's the inspiration that's going to get you there. The goal setting is the direction. Now, if you show the plan with the direction, you won't sponsor anybody, because how can you give direction to somebody else? He's got to come up with his own direction. And if you show the plan with just the dream, and you're not goal setting, you have no direction, all you do is get people all excited, and the next day, then they're down. But if you got a dream and back it up with goals, you've got inspiration with direction, and you can sponsor with that, see? Now, here's the thing that most people don't understand. Learning to set goals then teaches you to start stretching. You say, okay, I'm going to do 100 PV this month, and now we're down to there's 2 days before the end of the month. You've only done 50. Now, if that goal is important to you, you'll stretch and do the other 50. You start doing whatever it takes. You have to do it on those small ones, because later on you're going to stretch for bigger ones. We read all the time about people in athletics setting world records. The reason why is because they're on a daily program of stretching. Every time they go out and work out, they stretch a little bit more. A guy doesn't normally go out and the first time he runs set a world record. He pushes himself a little bit further each time. And when we think we've done our best, that's when we do a little bit more. When we think we've given everything we got, that's when we give just a little bit more. Any of you guys bodybuilders in here? Any bodybuilders? You're okay, fine. You are or not? I don't know. It's obvious I'm not. But as I understand the theory of bodybuilding, what you do is you go out and you lift weights until you can't lift anymore, and then you do 5 more. And when you do 5 more, it breaks down the tissue, destroys the tissue. And then what happens is, and that's why you're eating protein all the time, to build those, to start building, replace the cells. Then the muscle builds itself back stronger to replace the tissue and to protect it from this stress that you're putting on it. So then you work on that, and now you do it again. You push, it's built back, and now you go until you can't go anymore, and then you do 5 more to break down the tissue. And little by little, that's how you add bulk as a bodybuilder. All right? Well, it's the same thing with you and I. To go from 0 to 7,500, that's tough, but if you set a goal this month, maybe do 100, and then do everything you can do to get 100, then you've proven something. You've gotten that far. Okay, now we can stretch it up to maybe 200 or 300 next month. Sometimes we're going to stretch it only up to 10. 100 to 110. As long as we do a little bit more, we learn to stretch. But when you're setting goals, you need to understand that faith is the key to getting what you want in life. You got to believe in it and believe in it and believe in it, and when everything says stop, you push a little bit further. Every pin that Betsy and I have hit in this business, we've hit in the last hour of the last day of the month. Every single pin. And every single pin that we've hit in this business, we did at least 50% of the volume, 50% of the points came in the last week. In the beginning, we thought, okay, we're going to shoot for 1,000 this month, so that means on the 15th of the month, we got to be at 500. And at the 15th of the month, we're only at 200. And we thought, well, I guess we can't make it. So we gave up halfway there. We gave up. We didn't realize till later we were right on target at 200 halfway through the month. All right, but you see, we had to learn to start stretching. And boy, I'll tell you, when you start doing that, you'll find out that you can do unbelievable things. My goodness, 2 months ago, I was telling the guys in Melbourne, it was a month ago. A couple left our house at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning on the 29th of the month. Their PV was 2,100 PV. 2 nights later, it was 7,600 PV. You see, now it goes back to belief, goes back to excitement, goes back to stretching. There were 2 other couples that did the same thing. One was sitting at 4,000 when they left at that time. One was sitting at 6,000. Now in the States, you got to be at 7,500 to be a direct. The one at 4,000 ended up at something like 5,500. And the one at 6,000 ended up at 6,600. Now, why is it the one at 2,100 went to 7,600 and the others that were closer couldn't do it? By the way, the one that was at 2,100 only had 30 kits in their organization. The other 2 had a combined total of 150. The difference was belief and excitement and stretching. The other 2 hadn't taught their group to stretch. They weren't used to stretching. That'd be like me going out and trying to run any great distance. I'm out of shape. Now, you let me work on it for a while, I can get myself back into shape, and I can be a fair jock again. But for me to just run out there and try to do it right now, I'm not going to do very good. Well, it'll be the same thing on setting goals and stretching. And that's why day 1, you want to start doing that. The big thing, and I hope you're starting to understand this, it's not who you know, it's not how good you draw the circles, it's not how good you can sell. Those skills are not going to determine where you go. How far you go in this business is between your ears. It's how we think. And that was really the key, the system that Dexter put in to back up the pattern. And there's a pattern that we work to build this business. And that's why your sponsor and your sponsor's sponsor and your direct are so vital to you. They don't just fall together. There's a common thought in our own mind when we come into business. Oh, all I do is I invite people over and I talk them into the business, and when I've talked 6 into the business, I sit back and pretty soon I'm going to be rich. The guys that making this thing are the ones that are real good at talking people in. That's how most of us come into the business. And then after we try that for a while, we lose friends, we feel bad about ourselves, we realize it's not getting us anywhere. We think, maybe there's a better way. And then we start listening to what Dexter is telling us to do in the pattern. We listen to the system to find out. You don't talk people in. You can't convince a non-dreamer to become a dreamer. Waste of time. All we do when we draw the circles is we look for people who already agree with us. You know, I walk in, I tell people all the time, drawing the circles, I just lay the marbles out on the table. Okay? Now, one guy's going to sit there and say, yeah, right. And another guy's going to sit there and say, hey, I'm one of them 6. All right, well, I'll take the guy that's a 6. The guy's sitting there like this. I don't have to step on him. I don't have to make him feel bad. He's different than me. I need to understand that a non-dreamer will always laugh at me. They always will. I hope you understand that. Non-dreamers will always laugh at dreamers. Man, I learned that before I got in this business. I was 25 years old, and I said I wanted to retire when I was 35. When I was 28, just before I got in the business, I mentioned that to somebody at the corporation at a party one time. It was a couple between the ages of 35 and 40, and she started laughing at me so bad I felt terrible. Today I love that lady. She made me so mad I retired when I was 31. I finally got up off my fan. Oh, well, I don't say that down here. That's a butt, I guess, is what we do. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry. You got to understand, these words, I get into trouble all the time. I'm embarrassed. Anyway, I got up and fought. And so we did it sooner. Now, they're still working. And the reason why is because they didn't have the belief in a dream. They didn't have the faith to go ahead and fight. And that's what you need to have. Don't worry about the non-dreamers. Man, I'll tell you, in the beginning, I wanted to fight with them. Verbally, I'd fight with them. I'd argue with them and everything, and they'd sit there and laugh at me and everything, and I'd argue and all and everything. Waste of time. Man, here's the circles. Say what you want to say. Laugh at me if you want. Ridicule me if you want. I don't really care. Just get ready to eat crow, baby. Because I found out talk's cheap. Now I'm going to show them. That's the whole thing. And I did, and I found out talk is cheap. At work, they used to laugh at me and give me a bad time. Hey, Smith, you going to sell 3M today or sell Amway? In the beginning, I'd try to fight back. Then all of a sudden, I realized, look, stupidity is their problem. You can't argue with stupidity. They're talking out of ignorance. They don't even know what they're talking about. So, just shut up, smile, joke back with them, and wait for the checks to come in. And when they did, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month PV checks, every month before I'd go to the bank, I'd go to the copy machine and I'd run off a bunch of copies. And I'd put a copy in each one of their mailboxes. Eat crow, baby. Just get ready for it. The only time I'm going to fight a non-dreamer is when he starts stealing the dream of somebody else. And that's when I get mad. They're not going to steal my dream. But boy, I'll tell you, he starts picking on one of my people, he starts picking on you, now get ready for a fight. And I'll do that. We were out for a restaurant one time, and there were 4 of us, and we were waiting in line to be seated, and there was a couple to the left of me, a young kid and his friend, and the young kid was all excited because he'd seen the plan, and he was trying to tell his friend about it. And his friend was trying to steal the dream. He was one of these know-it-alls that knew nothing. And he's laughing at him, telling him he's gullible and he's naive and everything. And finally says, look, he says, I know what you've seen. He says, my sister saw it 2 years ago. She told me all about it. Oh, now that gives him credibility. He's an obvious expert. He says, let me tell you this. They called you in and they didn't tell you what it was. They invited you over, and some guy gets up and goes up on this board and he says, in 5 years you can make $30,000 a year. Is that right? And the kid says, well, yeah. He says, yeah, and you bought it, hook, line, and sinker, didn't you? He says, it doesn't work. My sister, she saw that thing got in. She was out in 2 weeks. He says, it's all a farce. And this kid was wilting. He'd been so excited. He was a dreamer, but a non-dreamer, a person with no faith, started stealing that dream, and I was getting upset. So I turned around and I looked at the kid that was all excited before, and I said, you know, you really should listen to your friend, because he's right. And the kid just collapsed. I mean, his face, his features, everything went down. I said, I saw the same thing. And they told me 5 years I could make $30,000. I said, after 3 years I was making $40,000, and it was all a lie. I said, the only thing you're going to have to worry about is a bunch of turkeys that don't know anything and shoot off their mouth like they do. If you listen to them, you'll never make it. But if you go ahead and go for your dream, you can go as far as you want. And man, I'll tell you, this other guy got mad. He knew he was outclassed. He knew I had the facts, so he wouldn't talk. He just threw daggers. Oh, they hurt. Really bad. But I'll speak up in a case like that because I despise the guys that criticize and minimize the enterprise of all the guys whose enterprise makes them arise above the guys who criticize. Oh. Some of you have got a long ways to drive to get home. I could talk for so long. I love you so much. There's a lot of things I want to tell you. I'm going to tell you 3 quick stories now, just to show you what you're up against, why it's so important to read the books and listen to the tapes and go to the functions. And then I'm going to show you how anybody in here can be a direct in December. And those of you that want to stick around, I think we're going to go have coffee and pizza or something like that, and I'll stay up all night if you want to, but we better end this for the guys that got to drive 400 kilometers. I've been so impressed with that, I can't believe it. For the guys that got to drive 400 kilometers, I've been so impressed with that, I can't believe it. You ever been to a circus? You ever seen trained fleas? Seriously, they have trained fleas. They got a little, you pay money to go in there, and they do. They train fleas. And I'm not making that up. How they train fleas is fascinating. The guy goes out in class. I don't know why anybody would want to do this, but at any rate, can you see? What do you do for a living? Well, I train fleas, you know. But no, they put the fleas in a jar and they screw the lid down. And fleas can jump 4 feet in the air. And they're in that little jar that would only be about that high. Maybe it'd be as high as this. And the fleas keep jumping up and they hit the lid. Boom. And, you know, obviously that hurts. But anyway, they do that a whole bunch of times until after a while they know how far they can jump without getting hurt. And the flea trainer, he watches that, and maybe it'll take a day. I don't know how long it takes, but however long it takes, when he realizes they're stopping short, he unscrews that lid. And from that point on, they'll live in there with no lid on that. And he'll take them into a circus. People will pay $1 to watch fleas jump just that high. That's the honest truth. You ever been to a circus and seen an elephant? Big, massive elephants, and they got this little rope tied to its ankle over to this little stake that you could pull out. If you had the same rope tied to that same stake, you could pull it out. Here's this massive elephant. And he just stays there, and he only goes to the end, that's it. Now, how did they do that? It's simple. When the elephant was real little, they put a shackle on its leg. And there was a chain off of that, and it went over into a deep stake. And every time that elephant tried to pull on it, it yanked into the skin. And he'd keep pulling and pulling until it break the skin. And then every time he'd get to the end of that chain, it would hurt real bad. And after a while, he got smart. He'd only go this far, just before it would start, so it could heal. And then after he'd do that, they'd watch him, and when they were satisfied at that, then they took the shackle off, and they just put that little rope on there. And he grew up, and you see, they'd convinced him that's all the further he could go. In Minnesota, where I come from, they've got a fish that's popular up there. It's called a pike, and it almost looks like an eel. It's just this long, ugly snake, and it's got a long snout on it. And the primary fish that it eats is called a minnow. It's a little minnow. They did a research on it. They put it in a big old tank and put a glass down the middle of that tank. And on one side of the glass, they put a pike. On the other side of that glass, they put a whole bunch of minnow. And the pike would sit there, and they wouldn't feed the pike. And so he'd watch the minnows and everything, and finally he gets hungry, and whap, he snaps at one of those minnows. Except he'd hit the glass. Boom! Hit him right in the nose. And within 2 days, his nose was bloody and all mushed up and everything, and they still wouldn't feed him. And then on the 3rd day, it was the 3rd or 4th day, he quit trying to snap at the minnows. And then they pulled the glass out. On the 7th day, the pike was dead. The last 2 days, there were minnows swimming all around him. But he knew better than to try to snap at the minnows, because he'd get hurt if he did. And so he starved to death. Now you stop and think about what you've been taught since you were a little child. In the schools, by your parents innocently. How to be happy in life. How to be successful in life. Go out and get a good education. Get a good job. Work hard. Some of you have been told, what makes you think you can have so much in life? None of your family's ever had anything. Some of you have been told all your life you're dumb. I've got a guy in my group who was told all his life he was actually retarded. They put him in the special classes in school. He never learned to read because they didn't teach him there. The reason they told him he was retarded is because When he was a child, he lost his parents, and they didn't have any place to put him, so they just started telling him that in the beginning, and then after that, everybody believed it, including him. He got in the business, listened to Dennis Waitley talk one time, and Dennis Waitley convinced him that maybe he wasn't retarded. And he taught himself to read on the books in this business. And we've been watching this guy grow and become a man. But you see, somebody had put the lid on his jar. Somebody had put the glass in his tank. And when somebody came along with the plan, they took the lid off and they pulled the glass out. And that's what I'm trying to do for you today. You can do great things. You could do so much more than what you've already done. You have the capacity within you to lead hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, to touch their lives in a manner that you have no concept of now. Within 2 years, everybody in here could have a whole file, like we do at home, of letters from people thanking you for being you, thanking you for taking a chance when you were where you are right now. Because of what you had done, they were able to straighten out their marriage. They were able to straighten out their kids. They were able to pay the bills and get the bank off the back. You'll find out along the way that you will, because you've gone and pursued your dream, prevented people from committing suicide, prevented bankruptcies, and allowed people to move into beautiful homes and have the experience. I heard Betsy talking about Nick and Sandy. I don't know if she told you about when because we sponsored them and helped them build a business, they were able to move into this beautiful home, and they had us come over so that we could teach them how to turn the water softener on, and they'd never had that. She'd never had a vanity in the bathroom before. She didn't know what a food grinder was in the sink. She'd never lived in a convenient modern home. The feeling of that is just incredible. You can do that. But you see, somebody's put the lid on your jar. Somebody's convinced you that being average is okay, and anybody can be average. I know your country is like my country. You can be average and never even go to work. There are people in this country that live as good as you, living off of the government. Anybody can be average. But God gave you powers inside that you haven't even touched. Why not reach out and let them work? What could you do in the next 30 days if you really tried? What could happen in the next 12 months if you decide to commit your life to being the best you can and doing the most you can with your own business just for 12 months? Folks, we did that for 14 months. And our income in this business went from $400 a month to over $4,000 a month in 14 months. The beautiful part was, because of the structure of the business, at that particular point, we were able to walk away from our jobs and never would have had to work again for the rest of our lives if we wouldn't have wanted to, because it was permanent income. Just 14 months. What could you do? Let me show you what you could do with just one night a week, one Saturday a month, and tape of the week. That's the only thing I ask for commitment on somebody I sponsor. One night a week, one Saturday per month, and one tape of the week. One night a week where you show the plan to somebody, take somebody to an open meeting or host a meeting at your house, just one a week. Most of you are committing it one night a week to something or other already. It might be some type of a social activity, some type of sports activity, or a community activity, or whatever. Just one night a week for your future, something protective. One Saturday a month where you'll go to a seminar and listen to somebody who's built this business tell you how to build it quickly, where you can learn how the pattern works. And one tape of the week so you can have a constant checkup from the neck up. You've been brainwashed all your life. You have been told this is how the world operates. Well, give your sponsor and give Dexter Yeager a chance to give you another idea, and then you counter the two. Do I believe this or not? So you can find out truth. Start thinking for yourself. Tape of the week is vital if you want to build a business. Your philosophy is what you believe to be true. That will determine your attitude, which is how you feel. Your attitude determines your activities determine your results, and your results determine your lifestyle. If you want to change your lifestyle, you first have to change your philosophy. Don't take anything anybody says at face value. Think about it. Challenge it. The only thing is we've got to be exposed to the ideas before we can even think about it. So one tape of the week, one night a week, and one Saturday per month. And let's say you take me up on that. That means that this next month you will show the plan 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. All right? We're going to say you do a 1-to-1 each time, and you only have a 25% sponsoring rate, because I'm going to say you're all brand new. You only sponsor 1 out of 4. So now, the month we're in now is what, March? In March, there's only you. 1 in your organization. Are we in March? All right? April. Oh, we're in April. Okay. Hey, you try. Well, I won't tell you my schedule. We're going to be here all night long. Okay, April. March, April, May. Okay? We'll get through this. Okay, next month you show the plan 4 times, 1 a week, 25% sponsoring rate. You sponsor 1. So you and him now, there's 2 of you in your organization. See how easy it is to go direct by Christmas? This thing falls together like a piece of cake. Okay, well, anyway, April, May. Now you know why that guy quit? Gee, second month, I'm not rich. April, May, June. The 2 of you go out, 4 plans apiece. You only sponsor 1. Now you're at 4. That means in July, you're at 16. June, July, August, you're at 32. Now I want you to think for a minute. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of hard work in this thing. You still only have 32 kids. A lot of people are used to going to work for a job, and they'll put in a week's work, and they'll get a paycheck at the end of the week. Well, let's face it, you're not rich at that point, and you put a lot of work in. But you got to understand how this all falls together. In September, you're at 64. October, 128. November, what is that? 256. That's based upon you showing the plan once a week and teaching your people to do the same thing. Once a week, 1 Saturday a month, and 1 tape of the week. Now, let me give you some realistic figures here. November, 256. A third of them are going to quit. All right? Some of you are real relieved to hear that, because you've been sitting here the whole time. You look at those circles and say, what if that guy quits? Well, now you know. A third of them are going to quit. No surprises here, all right? That's going to leave you with somewhere around 170, 180 people in your organization. All right? Now, of that, you'll only find that a half of them are going to take you up on this whole program. Only a half of them are going to be on tape of the week. So to 170, you got somewhere around 85 people now on tape of the week. You will also find, and this, you're direct, I mean, this is amazing what happens, but anybody that comes to me for counseling, I ask them, okay, how many people are on tape of the week? And they tell me how many people are on tape of the week, and I tell them how much PV they ran last month. And they're always shocked. It's not that hard. For you figure, for everybody on tape, 1 person on tape of the week, that will equal 200 PV. Well, if you've got 85 people on tape of the week, then times 200 is 0, 0, 0. You're running 17,000 PV in the month of November. Based upon you doing 1 plan a week, 1 Saturday a month for a seminar and rally, and 1 tape of the week. 17,000 PV down here, from what I've been hearing from people, that would put you at a Ruby volume and an income of somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000 per year income. Still got your job. All you're doing is putting in 1 night a week. Doesn't take anybody miraculous. You're not out there trying to talk them in. You're just going out 1 night a week and just laying the cards on the table. Guy says, nah, I'm not interested in that. Super! Hey, man, I got 3 more weeks. Guy says, no, I want to be one of them. Okay, fine, I'll take you on. This is what you got to do. Ready to do that? No, I don't think so. Well, good. Then you're another no. Go find Peter Madison. He'll sponsor you. I hope somebody taped that and sent it to him. I love that. Is anybody in Madison's group here? All right, you tell him I said that, all right? No, I'm going there tomorrow. I'll tell him that. Okay, well, at any rate, now, this is theory. It won't work out that way. Now I got you all excited. Because here's what happens. You'll do that, okay, in April, that'll work out good. At the end of the month, you've only sponsored one. Super, I'm right on target. But the thing is in April, you got a seminar and rally. Who's coming in the seminar and rally? Next month, you know? You're coming in the seminar and rally? No, I don't want to speak. David? Huh? Not yet. Okay, fine. Well, you got somebody coming in next month for seminar and rally. So you go to seminar and rally. And what happens is just you, or maybe you've sponsored this guy before then, I don't really know, but you just go there and all of a sudden you're looking around and saying, man, there's a lot of people here. They're excited. Then they have the pins that night. Somebody goes across stage, $1,000 pin. You think, wow, you know, maybe this thing will start working. So you keep on your program. About June, you come in. Somewhere around June or July, you go to a family reunion. Now, at this point, where did I go? 1, 2, I didn't do good. You didn't tell me. 4, 8. So this is December. I thought you ended up a little early. So you got 8 in July. 8 in July, family reunion, and that had been your goal because you got excited here and you got excited here, so now you figured at family reunion, I'm going to fill a whole role. So then you come walking in with your group, you're like a mother duck and you're running around trying to take care of them all. I remember that. I was so proud of that. You know, I'm going to show them what to do and all this kind of stuff. That's a goal, sure. So you do that. Now you're sitting there and you've been working this program over here and you got your whole group there and now your pride's on the line and that night they say, okay, have all the go-getters stand up. And you're sitting down, you're going, oh, no. You think, well, okay, that's it. Forget this program, man. I'm going to go two meetings a week. And so what happens is that you go out and go 2 meetings a week. Well, that means you get sponsored more people in there. And the next month you go, you're still not a go-getter. But what happened was you got some volume going in there. You did 1,000 points. You went across stage, man. Your whole group saw you go across stage. Figured this is all right. I got up there and I could tell them my name and my sponsor's name and my direct's name. And I tried to tell my story, but they took the mic away from me. And so I'm going to go out. I'm going to do 3 nights a week. All right? About that time, you got 2 turkeys in your group. They got mad because you went up on stage. They want to go up on stage, and they're doing 2 nights a week as well. See, they're messing up the whole program there. So what happens is you're drawing circles and getting those people excited. Those people are going out and drawing circles. They get excited. They tell you about the fact that they're excited, so you get more excited. And all this excitement's going. You got a whole mess in your hand. People are drawing circles. Kids are coming in like this, see? First thing you know, this 256 moves up here into August, and you messed up the whole program. That's how it works. But it'll never happen until you first commit to this right here. If you're willing to do that, and you're realizing that great things happen to people who are willing to take a step out in faith, who believe in the fact that quitters never win and winners never quit, who believe in the fact that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Folks, we need more men in this country. We need more toughness in this country. And I'm serious about that. When I mean toughness, I'm not talking about guys who go out and punch people in the nose. I'm talking about guys that have something they believe in inside and they're not afraid to stand up and say it. And that they'll stand by their guns because they believe in principle. You go for your dream. You know that there will be people that will be dying to follow you because they're looking for a chance themselves. Be a spreader of hope. Be a dreamer and teach people to dream. Go spin the circles and make these numbers in this town explode. If it was 20, 30 last time, and more than 200 this time, a year from now, why not 1,000? You could do that. We love you. I'm not going to talk for very long right here in the beginning. I'm going to pass it over to Betsy. I'm going to have to go back and kind of get a little bit better control of my emotions, I think. This is such a humbling experience. I got to tell you that Betsy and I have fallen in love with the people of Australia. I mean, you're just marvelous. Yeah. My father served in World War II and spent time in Australia, and I grew up hearing about you people. And last year when we came down here, it was just beyond words. You're just so special. And I was listening to the people talk up here, and I had so many thoughts were flying through my mind about the last trip. There were 1,200 people there at that rally in Melbourne. That's now grown to 9,000 throughout the continent in 14 months. As I traveled around the continent that time, every place I went, including here, everybody was concerned about the fact that they didn't think it could be built here because everybody they were showing the plan to said, yeah, it'd work in the States, but it wouldn't work down here. So they just went from 1,200 to 9,000 in 14 months. Can you imagine what would happen if it worked here? John was talking, I was watching John and I said, what a difference 14 months makes. There were about 30 or 40 people and in that room when we were here in Adelaide last time. And by the way, and Betsy will verify this, I've just been dying to get her here because ever since I was here, I've been telling her it's the most beautiful town I've ever been in my life, and it is gorgeous here. But we went to JoJo's afterwards, and I remember two impressions. First of all, David was so stiff the whole time. Every time he smiled, I was afraid his face was going to crack. I mean, it was just like, it was crazy. And John was sitting there and analyzing the business, and Mr. Intellectual and everything. And I thought, boy, all right, this guy. But you see, I could see it in his eyes. He had the excitement. He had the dream. And that's really all it's going to take is the dream. So many times, and I'll tell you, what happens is you get in the business and you say, oh, gosh, I'm not good enough to put this together. I'm not good enough to be successful. And then you see people that have already attained some level of success in the business, and you know you're not good enough because you could never be as good as them. And then you go direct, and you're trying to convince your people that you used to be like they are now. And they never believe you. And it gets real frustrating. But see, we all have enough naturally within us to go ahead and put this together. But of course, we'll change as we go along. It's always, can I be a little bit better today? And you know what? We get challenged in this business, and so naturally we do become better. And the greatest beauty of the business that you will see as you go along is the changes in the people that are around you and how they grow. And I'll tell you, that's a byproduct that really is something that you can't put into words, but so good. We've just been having a great time. Melbourne was crazy. Then we went to Perth. I've never been around anything like that before in my life. 600 people over there. They have it in I don't know what they call that thing, but they host bridal parties there, wedding receptions there all the time. And so they had this little room off to the side for the speakers to be in. And it was the bridal suite. They got mirrors on the ceiling, and they got a jacuzzi bathtub. And I'm thinking, and everybody, they come in and they say, if you want to lock the door, go ahead. I think, no, wait a minute. It was something. Oh, and it's just, and I just talked to Tom this evening, and we're going to go after we leave Melbourne. We'll fly over to New Zealand, and he says they've got a real challenge over there that they've already sold 125 more tickets than they've got room for. Look at this. Look what you've got here. 40 people last year, and it was funny. Last year, David was saying there was 100, going to be 100, and there was 40. This time he said there's 150. They had it set up for 200 and had to bring in more chairs. And I'll tell you, there are people that are here that this is the first or second or third meeting that you've been to, and a year from now you're going to talk about this meeting because it was so small compared to what it's going to be a year from now. And the reason why is because of when you were saying how far, there are people here willing to pay the price. What a feeling to stand at the back of the room and see how many people that in the middle of the week would drive 250 kilometers just to listen to two dumb Yankees shoot off their mouth. I mean, that is really something. But you see, what it boils down to is there are people that are willing to pay a price. And that tells you you're going to have big rallies here. And I'll tell you, as this thing grows, you're going to get to travel. And traveling is such a great experience. To see all these different places around the world, to meet people, that just coming down here, on the way down and in between meeting you folks, just in the planes and stuff, we met some of the most fascinating people. We met a lady that is good friends with the Aquino family in the Philippines. In fact, she's staying with one of their family in the States. And she's a young lady, but she obviously comes from a family of a lot of wealth and influence. Fascinating experience talking to her. We bumped into in Sydney coming down to Melbourne. 39 kids from a private school. We bumped into the headmaster, and the 39 kids, 6th grade to 9th grade, he had taken them up to Tokyo, and they were on their way back, and this guy was frazzled. I mean, it was something else. Met one of the biggest distributors of Tupperware in Australia, which was fascinating. He's one of the biggest, and he's telling me he runs $3 million in volume, and I can't remember, with 400 distributors. And I'm thinking, boy, I'm sure glad I don't have a business that small anymore, but 400 distributors, he's got those guys, he must have a whip out there. Go, mush, get all you could. What's interesting, we come from the middle of the United States. We come from Minnesota, which is right in the middle of the United States, and then the state south of us is a state called Iowa. That's where Bert comes from, and that's where we grew up. That's where we were born and grew up. And the capital of Iowa is a town called Des Moines, and the guy that heads up Tupperware in Australia comes from Des Moines, Iowa. I thought, man, what a coincidence, And then flying over from Perth today, we met a school teacher from Melbourne who's been to Moscow and Africa and Great Britain, and just was out in Perth to watch some friends row, and just so happens that she was telling her friends that she didn't think she was going to last out the year as a teacher, that she is just dying to get into some kind of business for herself, and she's got to find one. So love to tell you who she is, but give me a day or two and then I'll do that. But the guy that knows, where did we meet? That was going from Melbourne to Perth, and it was a guy that was going out to do a bunch of seminars this week for some type of Christian gathering, and he knows Bob Payne, and this is crazy. And the experiences, the things that you run into. We got here and I was so excited. Went in and checked into our room. You do much traveling, you know what these are. This one is different. It says hygienically cleaned and sealed. Normally it says for your protection, which has always been so reassuring to me. And I know they work because I know in 39 years I've yet to be attacked by a toilet, so they obviously work. What you want to do is you want to design a unique lifestyle, and so that most people, what they do is they just live like everybody else. You like that, huh? They live like everybody else. But most people, they'll go into a room. What do? They go in and they rip this off the seat and they throw it away, and and then you check out, and a week later nobody ever remembers you. Now, if you want to design a unique lifestyle, what you do is you go in and you just slide it off and neatly put it up on the counter. And then the next morning when you're ready to check out, then you slide it back on. See, now, when the maid comes in to check things out, it always messes them up, you see, because now, what's really fun is when you stay a week, all right? It is. About the third day when you're walking through the lobby, you can hear them off in the corner. Yeah, that's the one. About the fourth day, you're walking down the hall, and everybody's giving you a lot of room, I like it when they got the sign by the bathtub. It says, "Put the shower curtain in the tub." Jeez, I've done enough traveling. I know to put the shower curtain in the tub. You don't have to have a sign to tell me that. I've done that all my life. The problem is that these hotels, they got such small water heaters, I always run out of hot water before I get all those hooks undone, you know, to get that in there. But I think maybe you better talk, honey. We're kind of... No. I'm going to turn you over to Bets, and I'll be back up in a little bit and see if I can clean up my act a little bit. I don't know here.